Please read Exodus chapter 3 verses 1 and 2. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Moses came to Horeb, the mountain of God, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. You know, when I go to the mountains, I am in meditation. And I thought, why did the God of heaven decide to choose a forsaken bush, a thorn bush, when there are so many other nice trees in the mountains? Why did he give glory to that thorn bush, which is not even a tree? Let's look at the mountains. There are so many beautiful trees like cedar, oak, or all kinds of apple, pear trees. There's so many nice trees in the mountains. But this thorn bush, it's so ugly. It's not even a tree. And they can't even join. It's not even part of the tree family. Yet why did God give the glory of his appearance to that very bush? So, here in the Bible it says a bush. If you look in the Chinese Bible, it says it's a thorn bush. And if you look in the Korean Bible, it says that it's a thorny briar. So I thought of it as a thorn bush. This bush here, it's not like a tree which grows up tall and has lots of branches. But from the ground comes up many little branches. And it looks so weak and doesn't even look nice. And so you call those kinds bushes. So I thought of it as a thorn bush. This thorn bush is forsaken in the wilderness. It doesn't matter whether it's a nice field, or in the mountains, or in the desert, or in the wilderness. It does not choose. It doesn't matter. It still lives there alone. But apple trees, oak trees, pine trees, they all live together in families and in groups. And they are quite proud of their family. But this forsaken thorn bush has no friends, no family. It lives alone, anywhere. It lives its life, and it ends its life alone. This is a lonely, forsaken thorn bush. Second, this thorn bush is also forsaken by the other trees. In the mountains there are hundreds and thousands of different kinds of trees. But all those trees look upon it with contempt and disdain. And it cannot be part of the tree family. And there's no tree that says, oh, you are my friend. And there's not one tree which considers it a friend. So it's forsaken by all the trees. That's why it always lives under the shade of other trees. They may live in the same area, same mountain, same land, but it can never lift up its head. But always, it has to live under the shade of the trees who look down with scorn and contempt. On the other hand, this thorn bush is also forsaken even by the people. Beginning from those who need wood to build houses to those who need wood for fire, there's not one who looks to that thorn bush. So it just sits there alone. And with an inferior complex that sits by the road, a man who walks by says, what is this thorn bush doing by the road? And they take their knife or their sickle and they just cut it down. So not only forsaken in the wilderness alone, it's forsaken by other trees and lives in the shade of all those trees with contempt. And yet it's even forsaken by people. And that's why it is filled with self-pity. It has an inferior complex.
쳐다볼 것도 없이 오히려 남이
and only keeps to itself.
온몸에 가시가 잔뜩 있어가지고
And its body is filled with thorns. It does not even want to meet people or talk with others.
나옵니다. 그런데 놀라운 일이
But one day, something amazing happens. Something very amazing. The King of the universe, the Lord of heaven and earth,
사랑의 하나님께서
filled with love and mercy,
그 잘났다고 버티고 서 있는
he ignored all those other trees, all those good-looking and nice trees, and came to this tree, this thorn bush.
찾아오신 것입니다. 이 나무는
But this tree, this thorn bush, was shocked. Though there's so many pine trees, oak trees, chestnut trees, apple trees, pear trees, but why? Why does the King of this universe, why does the God of heaven come to this thorn bush who is not even a tree and smile? He says, "Forsaken thorn bush, do you know how much I love you? I love you more than all the other trees in the mountains. I love you the most.
내 품에 한번 안겨보지 않냐린
Won't you be embraced by me?" And he embraces the thorn bush. For the first time in its life, it received love. And it was so shocked and amazed. And all it did was shed tears of joy in the arms of God. Are there any among you who say, everyone else belongs to this group, that group, but they don't even let me be a part of their groups? How come everyone else is so nice looking, but I'm so shabby? I'm so useless and poor, old, weak. And whether in my family or in church, no one acknowledges me. Everyone else are pastors, elders, deacons, but they don't even allow me to become a deacon. And in my family, they don't even treat me well. Why was I even born in this world? Would God in heaven even remember someone like me? But I will hope that you will rejoice because of that. And that's why He has chosen you and brought you here and embraced you. Our God is full of mercy and love. He does not choose those who are proud and stand so tall, like presidents, and ministers, chairmen, other high position people. Instead, He came to you and He says, I love you the most. And He confesses His love to you. There's a president named Lincoln, and he knew God. He invited the common people to come to the White House. And the common people, they were sorry, and they couldn't go in. So President Lincoln smiled and said, come in. God loves common people more than presidents. That's why there's so many of all of you, and there's only a few of me. If He loved presidents, He'd make many presidents, but because He loves common people more, there's more of you. Come in. Let's not have self-pity or feel inferior. Let's just be happy that we are forsaken and yet loved by God. So God did not look at any of those nice-looking tall trees. Instead, He came to this thorn bush. That's why when the other trees don't even think about producing leaves or flowers, here we have thorn bushes like the raspberry. It already has flowers and fruits. Why? Because God has embraced it first. So it receives the love of God all by itself. And yet also, this thorn bush is loved by children. all those proud trees,
훌륭하다는 나무
when they do not even have any fruits,
열매로 맺은
this thorn bush, because it's loved by God first,
이 나무는
it
하나님의
bears
보응을 받을
these
때
beautiful
먼저
red fruits.
그런 열매를
And the
가지고
children like to eat that fruit.
부르고 손가락을 합니다. 그럼
And you can see children saying, oh look, there's raspberries here, there's raspberries there. And they're all picking the fruits.
고사리 손으로 그냥 따는데
I never heard little children say, oh, look at these thorns. Instead, they like the fruits. They say, look, here's another raspberry bush. There's another raspberry bush. And I saw children enjoy eating the fruits
그 나무를 좋아하는 것을 봤습니다.
of that thorn bush. That's why Jesus 2,000 years ago,
예수께서도
he was also a forsaken
교회들이 건축자들이
stone,
성전 건축자들이
not used by
버린 돌
the people of this world.
어린들에게는
That's why he received greater love
받고
of God.
그렇게 사랑을 받았던 것입니다.
How about the other
그러니까
prophets?
선자가 제일 사랑하는 나무가 바로 이 가시떨기 나무입니다. 선자가
Once the prophetess, she had a dream, a vision of a thorn bush.
양딸기가 아니라
And in Oriental medicine, this thorn bush is used in medicine.
보약제로 씁니다.
Like the raspberry is also used as medicine.
많이 없을 줄 아는데 이 산딸기 나무는 보약제로 이렇게 들어가는 거예요. 그 열매가. 그래서 이렇게
So that he was forsaken in the wilderness, forsaken by trees, lived in the shade of other trees, and was only looked down in contempt, in disdain, and forsaken by people,
그래서 시기와
as filled with only envy, jealousy, self-pity,
타주의 사상만 가지고 살아가는
and inferiority complex.
하나님과 어린
Yet it was loved most by the people of God, by prophets, and by God himself. How many people today
얼마나 많은 사람들이
fight for not just to receive acknowledgement from their family or from the church,
교회에서
and they fight with other people and try and step on top of people in order to go higher than them, in order to receive acknowledgement from the world. I hope that you will not become like that. But how about you become the thorn bushes that instead receive scorn, disdain, contempt? Because then you will receive love from God, and you'll be loved by children, and you'll be acknowledged by prophets.
나무들이 되시기 바랍니다. 누가복음 23장
If in Luke chapter 23 verse 31, God said he is a tree.
세상 죄인들을 마른 나무라고 말했습니다.
And he said sinners in the world are dry trees. And if you look in John, God said
우리를 가지라고 했습니다.
he was a vine and that we are the branches.
우리는 모두 인간다.
We are all human trees.
저는 이
I'll
시대마다
introduce you to
인간 나무를
human trees
어떤 인간 나무가 하나님께 최고의 사랑을
who are loved by God throughout history.
받게 되는가?
If you go to the Old Testament,
구약으로
let's look at Moses.
모세. 이 모세는
When he was
애굽에서 자랄
born in
때
Egypt,
40살 먹을 때까지
till he was 44.
왕의 차기
He was even chosen as a successor to the
왕자로서 당당히
king of Egypt. He grew
백향목으로 자라고
like a cedar tree.
얼마나 박수갈지.
He received the applause and the praise of all the people.
그래서 그가
And he received the greatest training and education. And he grew very, very proud.
얼마나 교만하게 자라는지 몰라요.
He was good in fighting. But at the time when he was living like a cedar, God did not look at him.
보지 아니하시다니
But when he gave up that position as prince, when he was forsaken by the people, when he was forsaken by his own people, and he ran away into the wilderness of Midian,
미디안 광야에 가서
here we have now one who could have been king is now taking care of the flock in the wilderness. At that time, God came to him and said, Moses, I love you more than even the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. And he embraced him. When he grew as a cedar, proud and tall, God did not look at him.
쳐다도 보지 않던
But once he was forsaken and became like that thorn bush in the wilderness,
모세를 폼
God embraced him. Moses had so many thorns in his life.
많이 돋쳤는지
When he saw the Egyptians
이스라엘 사람 구박하는
bother his own people, he couldn't
그 자리에서 한 주먹 때려 주겠어.
bear to watch it, and he struck the Egyptian to death.
도망가가지고
And when he ran away to the
미디안 광야가 왔더니
Midian, he saw
총각 목동들이 처음에
male shepherds
늦게
taking
와서
away the well
그냥
of the
똥을
female
밑바닥에다
shepherds,
붙이고
and he couldn't
어째서 질질 안 지키냐고 말.
control his temper, and he got all mad.
그래서
In any case,
그 초낸 목동들이 깜짝 놀라가지고
Moses' character
오나가나 모세의 성질은
was awful, full of thorns.
얼마나 성질에 무서운 가시가 많이 돋쳤나.
But once he became a forsaken thorn bush,
근데 그 버림받은
and God embraced him,
하나님의 포옹의
he threw
순간
all that away,
그 버릇을 싹 버리고
and he became a Jesus. God must embrace us, and we must be born again in order for us to become changed.
하나님께 가지 않고
So unless we are embraced by God, we can never become changed. But once he embraces us and we are born again, then we can become changed. That's what it means to be born again.
포옹으로 두 번 남은 되는 것입니다. 그것을 가리켜서 거듭나는 걸 하겠습니다. 아브라함과
Let's
이삭과
look at
야곱.
Abraham,
이 아브라함과
Isaac,
이삭과
Jacob.
야곱은 사람들은
People say, oh, they are the fathers of faith.
이
But
아브라함,
Abraham,
야손.
there's no need to say, wow.
이 아브라함은
Abraham lived in a house which was covered in tile at the time. He was very, very rich. He lived in a city of culture,
문화도시, 교육도시.
and he lived
부족한 데 없는
as a
것은
very rich and wealthy, well-off man. He lived in a 2-story tiled house. That can be considered like a 20 or 30-story building owner. Very rich. And Sarah
그래가지고 사라는 핸드백 속에
Sarah used to have cosmetics in her bag. That was even discovered some time ago. That's how luxuriously they lived. When he was living so rich and peacefully, God said,
아브라함에게 하나님께서
throw away your 2-story house. Leave the city of education and ministry and culture and live in the wilderness in a tent. And he threw it all away and he started following God. As he was following God, his friends, his relatives, they all did not come to visit him anymore. No one looked up to him any longer. And as he was wandering in the wilderness
유리방황
and being mistreated and looked down upon by the Gentiles in the wilderness,
생의 향기의 열매를
he just continued living.
살아갔어요. 그
Though he was rich and lived such a peaceful life,
그 안정된 생활하던 부자가
we can look in the Bible and see how that he lost his wife twice.
한두 번이 아니었고.
And not only that, when his wife died, he had nowhere to bury her. So he had to beg a Gentile for a piece of land to bury her. And many times he had nothing to eat, so he had to beg for food. And his son, Isaac, he risked his life and dug a well, but then the Gentiles came and said, this is ours, and took it from him. So he lost it. So he went to another place and risked his life and dug a well. You know, here in Korea, it's very easy to dig a well and get water. But there are many people who try and dig a well, even here in Korea, and they die. But over in that area in Palestine, there's no water. In order to dig a well there, you have to risk your lives. And once he digs a well and water comes out, he says, wow, that's so nice. But then the Gentiles will come and they'll take it away from him. And that's why, because we are the descendants of Abraham, that's why the people in the neighborhood, they really bother us. If they just feel bad, they block our way and they curse us. And if something happens, they always blame us. So we always have to, yet we still help them out and are kind to them. And that's why God loves us the most. And they even say, tear down that building. And that's why God loves us. Why? Because we're always looked down and mistreated by the people outside. And the father Abraham, starting with the father Abraham to his son, to her grandson Jacob, he was sleeping. He even slept in the wilderness using a rock as a pillow. And he wandered here and there. Yet, so when they were rich, God did not look at them. But when they lost everything and were poor, empty-handed in the wilderness, God came to them. And when they were mistreated and looked down upon by all the other people, He came to them, embraced them and said, you are the forefather of faith. You are the father of faith. Father, son, grandson, they're all the same. And continuously up to now. How about Elijah, Jesus, John the Baptist? wow, Elijah, John the Baptist, Jesus. You may say how nice they are, but they were truly forsaken thorn bushes. Elijah was an uneducated, shy man from Tishbite. And John the Baptist was a man from the wilderness. And they called him a fanatic and a lunatic. And Jesus came from Nazareth and was looked down upon as a shabby carpenter. And they didn't have one friend. Even though there's so many people living in the world, they did not even have one single friend. Instead, they were called fanatics, lunatics. And they tried to kill him. And even they were crucified. Jesus was crucified. Yet God loved them the most, embraced them, and they were praised as the greatest prophet among those who were born among women, or the Son of God. Or how about David? Oh, we may say, wow, David was king, wasn't he? But he was truly a forsaken bush. All of his older brothers grew up so well. They were good looking and tall. But he was the youngest in the family and always looked down upon. And David's brothers were so good looking. They all could become king. And even the prophet Samuel at the time, he was deceived. And he thought that they could become because they were tall, lean, tall and muscular. But among them, David was the shortest. And all he did was take care of the flock. So, if we just look at the Bible, taking care of the flock was considered a very, very low job. And that's why David's brothers didn't want to do that. So if David's father says to the brothers, to his sons, to the oldest brother, you take care of the sheep. Then the first says the second the third, you take care of it, you take it. And it always ended up as David's job because he was the youngest. So they would play and they would wander and they would go here and there. But David, he was always stuck with the flock. And at that time, being a shepherd was one of the most dangerous jobs. Right now, shepherds are considered cowboys and they're on horses and they have dogs. And it seems so nice. But at the time, being a shepherd, taking care of the flock is dangerous. You don't know when a wolf or a lion or a bear would appear or thieves would come. So you can imagine what this young boy David was like. If he had to meet a lion, what would happen to him? How would he be able to kill a bear or wolves or thieves? That's why his job was very dangerous and he did not know when he could die. And even at night, he can't sleep. Every day, he has to risk his life and tend the sheep. So his brothers would go around here and there and enjoy themselves. But David, he never got to play. He never knew when he would die. And instead, he just wandered in the wilderness with the flock. He was a forsaken thorn bush. But God, instead, he forsook David's brothers. He forsook Saul. And instead, he made David the king.